Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine.
What's going on, son? Have a seat there.
Can you take me to the nearest police station? A 12-year-old boy rang the bell of his neighbor's house. The boy's legs were covered with duct tape, and it seemed as if he hadn't eaten for days.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine.
What happened to this boy that he had to ask a neighbor for help? Where were his mom and dad? As the police later found out, the boy was running from his very own mother, Ruby Franke. Sergeant Nick Tobler, who was first at the crime scene, explains the horror he witnessed.
You were watching EMTs tend to him, and he was wincing to any kind of pain when they lift his legs up.
And what does that indicate?
That he's been through a lot of pain.
He was very calm. He never cried. He was just stoic, like unwavered strength from this kid.
You could see the joints in his legs, they were abnormal. You could see malnutrition, just not enough food, not enough intake.
The boy's arms had been bound by ropes until they had started to bleed. The marks on the boy's hands showed that he had been handcuffed for a long time. He had escaped from his home from a side window because he was extremely hungry and thirsty. "I will not feed a demon," Ruby, the mother of the 12-year-old, wrote as she spiraled into a circle of inflicting violence and blame on her children. Ruby, a momfluencer who ran a successful YouTube channel, 8 passengers until one day she didn't. So why did Ruby disappear off the web all of a sudden? What happened to her children? That's what we're about to find out. Tighten your seatbelts as we reveal the truth about the influencer Ruby Franke, who turned into a real-life monster. They say that you should not believe everything you see on the internet. 8 Passengers is the name of the YouTube channel started by Ruby Franke. It recorded the day-to-day lives of Ruby, her husband, and their 6 children: Shari, Chad, Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve. In a world where mothers look for advice on the internet, Ruby's channel became a huge success. What's not to love? Who wouldn't want to follow in the footsteps of a woman who had 6 children, a fit body, and 1 million followers? Things were going smoothly as Ruby would post tips and tricks to manage the schedule of her 6 children. However, things started to become weird as Ruby's parenting choices were revealed. In one of the episodes, Ruby and her family were having dinner. Ruby's husbands noticed that their son Chad was using his cell phone.
Chad, what are you doing over there? No texting at the dinner table. No texting.
Let me see it. Let me see it.
I see it!
We should clarify that in our house, all our kids know that cell phones are free game for parents, so we can monitor safety.
Yeah, no kid ever said, "Yay, I'm so glad my parents read my text messages." Said no.
What is this? I really like you. Hold on.
I did not say that.
How do you work this stupid phone?
The only downside to giving your kids a flip phone is I swear I have to remember how to work it every time I go through it, says YouTuber vlogger Ruby Franke, while sharing footage of her family having dinner.
The only downside to giving your kids a flip phone is I swear I have to remember how to work it every time I go through it. Who are you texting?
No one.
Any girlfriend?
Whoa. I really like you. I saw you in my dreams last night.
As the video proceeds, the interaction becomes more and more unhinged. Ruby's husband, Kevin Franke, takes the phone from his son and starts to read his texts out loud. Chad, Ruby's son, is visibly shaken by this abuse of power and wants his phone back immediately. He tries to extend his hand to take the phone from his father, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Ruby is telling another one of her children that if they don't behave, they will not get to eat dinner. Kevin Franke believed that Ruby's strictness was necessary for the children at the time. In another disturbing vlog, Ruby's son Chad revealed that he had been sleeping on a beanbag for 7 months. Ruby had decided to punish her son for some mistake and locked his bedroom. As a result, Chad had to sleep on a beanbag in the living room. Chad was sharing this detail lightheartedly, but Ruby mentioned that if Chad found it funny, he would lose his room again.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he's like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
When the viewers saw how Ruby was treating her son, they expressed their anger in the comments section. However, Ruby was not ashamed of her actions and continued to make vlogs as if nothing had happened. Parents generally have a right to bring up their children as they see fit. However, some parents go far beyond the expected limit to punish their children for their mistakes. Ruby was no different. She did not tolerate any kind of misbehavior in her home. Whenever one of her children misbehaved, she stopped feeding them. She would not even pack their lunch for school. In one of her videos, she showed the audience a picture of a text message a teacher had sent. She said that the teacher felt uncomfortable that her daughter was not bringing her lunch. Instead of feeling ashamed, Ruby scolded the teacher. She said that her daughter Eve was responsible for packing her lunch, and she must learn how to be responsible. She would only learn her lesson if she remained hungry throughout the day and would pack her lunch the next day.
Just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch. And it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch.
The natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry, and hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
Threatening is never okay when you are dealing with children. It becomes even more disturbing when a parent threatens a 4-year-old. Ruby was not happy when her daughter cut up something in her house. Instead of explaining to her child that cutting things is not okay, she took her favorite toy and threatened to cut its head off. If you cut one more thing in my house, I am going to take the scissors and I am going to cut its head off.
If you cut one more thing in my house,
We're chopping its head off.
I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you gonna cut anything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama.
Ruby was a Mormon, although her methods for discipline are not typical in the Mormon faith. She was constantly worried about her children's spiritual well-being. When she was facing trouble handling her teenage son Chad, her brother-in-law recommended a mental health specialist, Jody Hildebrandt. When Jody met Ruby, she was in a vulnerable state. Her marriage with Kevin Franke was breaking apart, and she needed someone to rely on. Enter Jody Hildebrandt, who reaffirmed Ruby's suspicions that the devil was controlling her children. Notably, Mormons do not believe that the devil is able to control children. She and Ruby started another YouTube channel called Connections, where they shared their mutual experiences and gave parenting advice. Both the 8 Passengers and Connections channels were removed by YouTube after Jody's arrest.
Jody, I need you to step out.
I have my turn.
That's great. Step out of the house.
No, I'm not going to step out of the
Step
house.
out of the house. Step out of the house.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
We're just going to see if
Whoa,
anybody
whoa,
else.
whoa.
Is there anybody else home?
Wait a minute, how do you come to my house?
Right there.
Look, they go on into my house.
So have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there.
Kevin and Ruby Franke had a seemingly happy marriage as they supported each other in their parenting choices. They have been married for the past 22 years. They had started the YouTube channel 8 Passengers in 2015 and were doing quite well. However, things started to go wrong when Kevin and Ruby's channel 8 Passengers started to lose followers, and they appointed Jody Hildebrandt as their counselor. Kevin started to watch porn and neglected his family. Jody told Kevin to move out of the house to save his marriage. Kevin moved out of Ruby's house on July 24, 2022. When police contacted Kevin regarding the child abuse, he said he was not aware of the inhumane treatment. He said that he hadn't seen his children in over a year.
You haven't seen any of your kids in over a year, you said?
That's correct.
And then, what was the last time you saw her? How old is she now?
15.
She's 16? Okay. And then when all the kids left, Ruby took all of them?
Yeah, she stayed in the house and I moved out.
Okay. And did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or was there...
I honored the no separation boundary that we agreed to.
So, what was your separation?
Contact boundary, excuse me.
Did you have a no contact order in place?
Order? No, this was between my wife and I.
The officer then explained to Kevin the condition in which his youngest son, Russell, was found.
We received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water, that he was severely emaciated, that he had...
What does emaciated mean?
Skinny, scrawny, malnutrition, not enough food, not enough water to sustain life. So he had...
I'm sorry, what?
He had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital.
Kevin was shocked when he heard about his son and did not know how to respond. Since Jody and Ruby were extremely religious, they decided to mold the children according to their wishes. But children may not be able to face such strict rules, and they will likely break them. Whenever one of her younger children broke the rules or tried to get away, Ruby made sure that they were punished accordingly. One day, her 9-year-old daughter, who had been forced to fast for 2 days straight, tried to get something to eat. Ruby saw her breaking her fast, so she took a pair of scissors and gave her a buzz cut. On another occasion, she dragged her son Russell into the dog bath, covered his mouth with her hand, and pushed his head into the water. The boy survived, but he was traumatized for life. Ruby would tie up her 12-year-old son with handcuffs and ropes to make sure he completed his fasts. In her journal, Ruby wrote that she was doing all these things to instill a sense of gratitude in her children. July 11th, 2023 was reported as a big day for evil by Ruby, and she decided to wipe the slate clean by torturing her children. She expressed her anger against her children in the following words: "These selfish children who desire only to take, lie, and attack have zero understanding of God's love for them." When Ruby's YouTube channel 8 Passengers started losing viewers, she created another group on Facebook as well as Instagram called Moms of Truth. This group was initially established to support mothers with parenting advice, but it soon turned into something completely different. The toxic conversations in the group led many people to believe that Ruby and her business partner Jody Hildebrandt were sociopaths. They kept insisting that children must go to church. If they refuse, they will get punished. Ruby believed in showing children content that coincided with these theories. She did not like it when her children wanted to see the movie The Walking Dead. She wrote in a reply to a comment on Instagram, "I am making a point that if going to the church is important to the parent, then the weekly activities the rest of the week also need to be consistent with the principles taught. It's inconsistent to expect honesty, responsibility, and humanity, and then turn around and consume and endorse destructive, distorted messages from the media." Ruby's channel was becoming more and more weird as time passed. She posted completely crazy videos of spending time with her friends. One of those videos shows Ruby hanging out with a bunch of women. One of her friends says that Ruby tried her friend April's breast milk and did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. Her friend who was making the video said that they were closer than ever.
You guys will need to go over to April and Davey's channel because I didn't get to film it. Ruby tried April's breast milk That's true. And she enjoyed it. Last time we were together on a trip, she ate a rat. It's fine. I love you, Ruby. Great. Okay. You guys are now closer than ever.
The man walking behind the three women was completely stunned by this revelation, and so was the audience. These are just some of the instances where Ruby reveals her dark side. After a few years of starting 8 passengers, Ruby ended up in prison for child abuse. This is the journey of a woman who lost all control in a bid to make money. Of all the things Ruby did while parenting, the worst was still hidden behind the camera. As soon as the cameras turned off, Ruby's smiling face turned into a scowl. She became a person who saw her children as evil. Chad, who had suffered most of Ruby's cruelty, had moved out of the house, but the 2 youngest children did not have anywhere to go. Ruby used to torture her son and daughter to extract the evil out of them. She would slit their legs and arms and tell them that she was doing this for their good. She writes in her journal that she would not feed demons. At this point, Ruby had started homeschooling her 2 children, and they had no contact with the outside world. She was heavily influenced by her psychiatrist, Jody Hildebrandt. The neighbors were suspicious, but they did not know what was going on in Ruby's house. Ruby's 12-year-old son was scared and could not take much more of his mother's erratic behavior. He climbed out of the window and escaped through the porch of his house. He kept ringing people's doorbells until one of them answered the door. When the neighbor answered the door, the boy made an unusual request. "Hi, sir. Can you take me to the nearest police station?" The man who had opened the door was worried by the child's request and told him to have a seat.
Yes.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine.
What's going on, son? Have a seat there.
The Ring camera installed in the neighbor's house shows Ruby's son as thin as a stick. He had duct tape wrapped around his ankles and feet. When the neighbor saw the horrible state of the child, he called 911. "I just had a 12-year-old boy here asking for help. He's emaciated. He has tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty."
911, tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he had just came from a neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
Okay.
The surprising thing is that the police found that the children were living in Hildebrandt's house. Ruby's son told the police that his sister was also in need of help. He explained to the police how he and his sister had been living in a state of horror. The boy's wounds were so bad that one of the police officers could not stop herself from crying. When the police finally reached Hildebrandt's house, they were not ready for what came next. As the police searched the whole house, they found Ruby's 9-year-old daughter, Eve, sitting alone in a closet. The little girl was so scared that she did not move or speak for long.
You come in, my buddy. I'm a police officer. Are you going for the union here?
Hey, you okay? Is it just you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name? I just have one. Where's your sister at?
Contact one.
You okay? Huh? You doing okay? You don't want to talk to me? Yeah, that's okay. Can you come with me though?
The police officer did not push the girl and gave her food instead. The girl was so frightened that she did not touch the food for quite some time. She just kept looking at the box of pizza and the soda can. After some time, the girl opened the pizza and started to eat. She was so hungry that she ate the whole personal pizza and half of the large pizza. Even after the police gave the little girl some food, she refused to get out of the closet. When the officer asked if she wanted to talk, she said that she was nervous.
You don't want to talk? Okay. There's nothing at all you want to talk about at all? It's okay to talk to me. Are you scared? Just nervous. What? Just nervous.
It took the police officer 4 hours to convince the little girl to walk out of the closet. After taking the kids to safety, the cops arrested Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. When Ruby was brought into the interrogation room, she did not say anything in response to the officers' questions, nor did she ask how her children were doing.
It's yours if you want it. We'll say that. How's that?
We also have snacks if you need anything to eat. So I know I introduced myself to you earlier, but my name is Detective Bates, and this is Sergeant Tobler. We're just here to talk to you about kind of a few things involving your kids. So first, do you live down here, or do you want to talk to me about where you live, or how many kids you have?
When they insisted that it was her chance to tell her side of the story, Ruby replied calmly, "I'll wait till I have a lawyer."
I'll wait till I have a lawyer. Okay. So you don't want to talk to us at all? Do you want to answer that? Or you don't want to talk to us about anything?
Jody Hildebrandt was not so calm when the police confronted her regarding her actions and role in the child assault case. She told the officers that she had been living in the same house for 6 years, but when the police asked her about the consequences leading to Ruby's children's situation, she tried to avoid the conversation. Being a psychologist, Jody knew how to manipulate the conversation in her favor. She kept saying that you guys look like nice people, but how do I know that I can trust you?
So if you want to share any of that and you don't want to answer any other questions, that's okay.
I'd like to just tell you, but I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're gonna flip my words. I don't know.
And that's the good thing about cameras. Everything, it's pretty much double recorded, audio, video, and it's for the safety for you and for us, because we don't want to flip your words.
The police found evidence of abuse in Jody Hildebrandt's residence. They found the journal in which Ruby recorded the methods of torture she used to restrain her children. Ruby was charged with 4 counts of aggravated child abuse based on the evidence. Both Ruby and Jody pleaded guilty to all the charges. Ruby was sentenced to 15 years for all 4 counts of assault, meaning that she would serve up to 60 years in prison. Ruby read out a statement in court where she apologized for her actions.
I would like to make a statement without any intent to change my stipulated sentence. For the past 4 years, I've chosen to follow counsel and guidance that has led me into a dark delusion. My distorted version of reality went largely unchecked, as I would isolate from anyone who challenged me. I was led to believe that this world was an evil place, filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abused. My choice to believe and behave this paranoia culminated into criminal activity, for which I stand before you today ready to take accountability.
The judge expressed his horror at Ruby and Jody's actions while saying that both women terrorized the 2 children, Russell and Eve, and must serve their prison sentence in full.
This circumstance is tragic. It's largely, of course, of your making. By any measure, your conduct in this case was disastrous for these children. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults with specialized training in particular are supposed to protect children. You didn't do that in this case. In this case, you terrorized children, and the results have been tragic.
Jody Hildebrandt was sentenced to 30 years in prison because of her involvement in the case and her parenting philosophy.
The court imposes 4 1 to 15-year sentences to be again served consecutively for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. The last thing I do need to tell you is that
Ruby is going to spend the rest of her life in prison because of her continued sentence, but this is not bad news. The news of Ruby's sentence allowed her son Chad to take a sigh of relief. He was seen smiling as he left the court of law. In another video on TikTok, he's seen celebrating his mother's imprisonment with his girlfriend. His sister Shari, who had also moved out of the house, was happy at the sentencing. She said that she had been trying to convince Child Protective Services and the police to help their younger siblings, and she was glad that somebody spoke up. Russell and Eve have been placed in foster care, far away from their torturous mother. Kevin Franke is still fighting to get their custody. But the best thing about this horrible case is that Kevin's children are now safe. They don't have to worry about being punished for the slightest mistake, and can heal from their childhood trauma as they get older. Do you think Ruby deserves to spend 60 years in prison? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to view more interesting stories.